In the previous episode of this series, we explored Christmas carols as folk music, songs that were shaped by communities, passed on by ear, and rooted in everyday life. In this episode, we turn to what happened next. Christianity and the churches drew on those folk traditions, gradually bringing carols into worship, theology, and the rhythms of the liturgical year. So what began outside church walls was drawn within them. Today we're interested in what Christmas carols mean in this religious context, how they function in worship, how they're sung, and how they shape the experience of Christmas for congregations and choirs. So we're going to hear from three practicing Christians, and the guests are Alice Pettit, the Vicar of St Andrew's Church in Ham in southwest London, Margaret Haig, who runs Mosaic, an Orthodox Christian choir, and Mervi Mattilla, service manager at the Finnish Church in Rotherhithe. Together, they give us an insight into the living role of carols in Christian worship today. Let's start with Alice Pettit. I spoke with Alice in the middle of Advent, so she was pretty busy at the time. Thank you, Alice, for agreeing to have this chat today. And I just wonder if we could start by asking you to introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Reverend Alice Pettit, and I'm the Vicar of St Andrew's Church, and I have been for 8 years. You can fit quite a lot of people in, more than 300 if you really need to, but at the same time, it feels really cozy and intimate and small. So it kind of has the best of both worlds. You're together in this beautiful Victorian box of light and beauty, and you can all come together, but you also feel in this cozy, small, intimate space.
Wonderful, yeah. And it's, of course, it's a Church of England church.
It is, yes, it's a Church of England church. I'm an Anglican vicar.
Excellent. Okay, that's good. So, what about Christmas carols in your context? What's the role of Christmas carols in St Andrew's context?
So we take the opportunity to sing all the beautiful Advent music at Advent and the carols at Christmas. And for me, it always feels like too short a time. I know some people say they get fed up with Christmas music, but actually, I feel like you're almost in a rush to try and sing as many as you can before they all have to go back into the box, like the Christmas tree decorations. They're just wonderful. And even with all the extra special services, I find I don't have space to put in all the ones I'd love to sing. And we do have two particular services, two special musical occasions, which would be the Advent service, first Sunday of Advent, Darkness to Light. Darkness to Light is beautiful, it's magical, it's the beginning of Advent, and it is full of music. And the choir prepare for it their own Advent anthems as well as Advent hymns, which everyone will sing together. And we have a procession at the start where the church starts in darkness, and all the choir will hold candles and they will sing, Christ be our light, shine in our hearts, shine in the darkness. And they will process through the church. And as we do that, we light all the candles of the church, which are at the ends of the pews. And so the church goes from darkness to light as we sing about Christ the light coming in. And then later in the service, it's the one service where I don't stand at the front. I go round the church through the whole service with a little group of acolytes of children from the youth group holding candles so that I can see my music in the darkness. And about 7 times through the service, it will go quiet and go dark, and it's so Advent. There's this pause, you can hear everyone waiting, and then into the darkness I will sing just my voice. I will sing the antiphons, which were written in the medieval period, and they're plain song, and they cut through that darkness and that pause with that music, that one voice calling out about Jesus, about what's happening, about what's been promised, what we're waiting for. And it is magical, and it's the only service like it in the Christmas period. And it's full of Advent music and Advent waiting. And you really feel that darkness being pierced by the light. It's so uplifting. It's a great way to start Advent.
But that is such a beautiful description as well of the both the symbolism
Mm.
and just the kind of the sense of the moment. So, have you got a favourite carol yourself?
It's so hard to answer that question because I've
Mm.
got so many favorite carols. I was having a think about what could I if I had to pin it down. It's really hard, but I know one that I choose a lot when I am planning my services is "O Little Town of Bethlehem,"
Mm.
and it's a very useful carol for me as a vicar because it so effectively tells the story and evokes that first Christmas. And you can kind of, especially, if you're about to have the nativity play or a reading, you feel like you almost draw people into Bethlehem. But also it's so poetic. The words are so beautiful. And I think it really effectively gives that message of into the darkness comes the light. And, Christmas is a wonderful time, but for many people, it can also be a very difficult time. And, whatever's going on for you, come to Bethlehem, see the child. He is good news. And the hopes and fears of all the years are met in him tonight. And so I love that one. And another kind of similar one, both of them written by American priests in a very similar time period, is It Came Upon a Midnight Clear. And that again is so poetic and talks about the darkness, but the light coming in. And man at war with man hears not the love song which they bring. Oh, hush the noise, ye men of strife, and hear the angels sing. I love that line. And in O Little Town of Bethlehem as well, it's while mortals sleep, the angels keep their watch of wondering love. And I love the angels at Christmas, the way that whenever they turn up in the story, the first thing they say is, "Do not be afraid." To Mary, to Joseph, to the angel, to the shepherds. Partly because suddenly coming across an angel is quite scary, but I just think it's so kind that they come in and the first thing they say is, "Don't be afraid. It's okay. We have good news." And whoever you are, wherever you are, whether Christmas is a joyful time or a really challenging time, it is a time of light and joy and hope from God reaching out. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. I bring you good news.
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. I was going to ask you about, about some of the themes that you think that the music evokes, but I think that you've anticipated that question because, you're speaking about hope, you're speaking about waiting, you're speaking in a liturgical context about the incarnation. I just wonder, how do carols feature in terms of your connection with community? Because clearly for you, there's a Christian meaning that's at the center of what you're doing. But for many people, caroling is about community and is about familiarity and about memory and about ritual and tradition. So how do you think the carols feature in your relationship with a wider life of the community?
I think people will come to carol services who often don't come to other things because it's a special part of Christmas for them. And I hope that when they come in, they feel the welcome of the church and the wonder of the message and feel uplifted by it. And I do feel like I'm balancing a lot of different things at Christmas. There are people who who will be there just for Christmas and who also want to sing the songs they know. And so I will always try and pick, that the big standard Hark the Herald, and things like that. And also at the crib service, we always start with the 12 days of Christmas, which is lots of fun and kind of breaks the ice and get people standing up and sitting down at their part. So, you want people to have that familiarity and to enjoy them. You also want people to encounter the divine and the message. And so I will pick ones like O Little Town of Bethlehem that I think convey that really well. And I will sometimes steer away from, I mean, like, "Oh Come All You Faithful" is beautiful and I love it. And we sing it on Christmas morning because you get to sing, "Yea, Lord, we greet thee, born this happy morning." But on the other hand, if I've got a load of children coming in, I'll avoid it because "Lo, he abhors not the virgin's womb, very God, begotten, not created," is not going to do anything for them. They're not going to know what they're saying. So, I'm always thinking about the lyrics and do they know it? Do they not? And yeah, so you're trying to balance all those different things, but I mean, you have such amazing material to work with. There's always enough for whatever you're trying to do. And it also depends what you're preaching on, what the readings are. I love Silent Night as it's such a beautiful carol, and I think that one particularly draws us into that relationship between Mary and her baby, and that moment of like luminous love between a mother and her newborn. And for me as a mother, that really speaks to me as well. And just the relief and the joy of holding your child who's finally been born. And but also he's Christ the Savior is born. It's in that moment you have just layers of wonder. And I think you can have those grand carols, which are all angels and trumpets. And you also sometimes you're bringing it down to that very intimate, small moment of a mother and her child. And so you're always thinking about what your message is on that service and who it's for and how you can most engage them and yeah, and bring them into the wonder of it.
Beautiful, beautiful. What's going on? What are we entering into when we come into the church on Christmas Day? What is it?
Now, on Christmas morning, I'm kind of entering the final straight of my adrenaline-driven marathon, having done the carol service. I mean, the crib service, which is our biggest service of the year, and often more than 300 people, and lots of children all dressed up. And then you have midnight mass, which is just so special, being in the church at midnight with all the candles and it's like it's here, the moment is here. And then you go home and get no sleep because you're so full of adrenaline and you haven't finished yet. And then you get up again on Christmas morning and it's a totally different group of people. And it's kind of like, ah, it's because everyone's been working up to this moment. And then it's almost you've done so much waiting that it's quite a gear change because it's like he's here, and you do sing that "Yea, Lord, we greet thee," and then and you ask the children what toys they've had and that kind of thing, and everyone then kind of disperses. You've drawn everyone into this communal journey towards Christmas, and then everyone kind of disperses to their own homes and shares it with their families, and it is a sense of joy and relief and kind of having arrived. But also I want people to hang on to the idea that Christmastide has just started. I feel like we're very much in tension with the culture around us at that point, because for other people, they have had Christmas is the run up to Christmas and the day. And then, you're into January and dieting and your gym membership and all of that and looking forward to spring. And it's like, no, 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 wait. So that was Advent. That wasn't Christmas. That was Advent. And now is Christmas time. And really you have a month of singing all the Christmas hymns, of the carols, But for some people, they're like, why are you still singing carols? Christmas is over. And it's like, no, 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 Christmas has just begun. And you've got
Right.
to wait for Epiphany. It's like the wise men are still on the road. And, they haven't reached the crib yet. They're still up by the high altar and we're moving them round the church. So at that point, there was this like tension where I'm trying to hold people in Christmas when they were like, oh, we're done. And like, no, no, you're not done. And I'm trying to hold them back.
That is so wonderful. Alice, I'm going to suggest that we leave it there. I think that's really lovely. Can
Thank you,
I?
Michael. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Now we're in the hands of Arts First podcaster Niall Crowley. Niall has a chat with Margaret Haig, who's the leader of a choir called Mosaic. Mosaic are a London-based Orthodox Christian choir, and the choir's members come from loads of different backgrounds, and their repertoire is pretty eclectic too. So this year at their annual carol service, they included carols from Greece, Romania, Serbia, Germany, Ukraine, United Kingdom, United States, Peru, and Bulgaria. So, Niall and Margaret, take us from here.
So Mosaic Choir's been around for about 20 years now. We came out of a youth festival. And so originally we called ourselves a youth choir, but most of us are not really youth anymore. But we come from a variety of backgrounds. All of us are Christian Orthodox, but we come from all the different varieties of that denomination, if you like. So we've got people who are British, like me, but we've also got people who are Greek, Cypriot, Russian, Serbian, Romanian, and we've had people from lots of different traditions over the years in the choir. We've had an annual carol concert for many years now. We find that it's a really great way for us to celebrate the Christmas season, but also for our audience who are made up of Orthodox and non-Orthodox people. So the carols that we sing are all Christian, but they will be from a variety of places. So we choose some which represent our own backgrounds in the choir. So we will always have some Greek carols, some Romanian carols, and some British carols, for example. So depending on the makeup of the choir, we might have more or less of a proportion of each one. But we do sing the traditional British carols as well as medieval kind of carols and older ones as well. And then, as I say, from across our traditions. We also try to include something which is completely unknown to us, and it will always be a bit of a challenge. So we've sung a carol from Ghana before, even though we don't have any Ghanaian members of the choir. And this year we're including a carol from Peru, which is really exciting for us, singing in Spanish.
Wow, that's impressive. From looking into the tradition of carols, I wasn't quite sure how our carol tradition fits in elsewhere, and what do we mean by carols?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think the answer is that it varies from country to country. And I think in Romania, for example, they still have the tradition of going from household to household, groups of children, to their local houses, but that persists even into cities. They will go door to door in a tower block of flats. It really is still part of their culture and tradition to go and sing carols around their community. And you will go and knock on the door, they will answer, you will sing a few carols, and then you might be given something for your trouble.
As we used to do.
Absolutely. And I used to do that when I was a child growing up in Essex. So it's not something that's strange to me at all. But for many people, they don't do that nowadays, whether it's in Britain or in other countries. There are some different traditions. In Greece and Cyprus, for example, they tend not to sing Christmas carols as such. There are a few carols which are about Christmas, but they sing them at New Year rather than at Christmas itself. So it's just done at a slightly different time. And other countries, you'll only hear Christmas carols in the church sort of after the service on Christmas Day. It really varies in different countries and different traditions. So we like to just try and explore as many of those traditions as we can. Last year, we had our concert on the 13th of December, which is St. Lucy's Day. So we will sing in Swedish for St. Lucy because that's the tradition in Sweden. This year, we're not singing on the 13th, so we're not singing that one, but we are doing lots of other different carols, which are sort of a mix of lullaby carols and pastoral carols, and then carols which are kind of parallel stories to Christmas. So those are some of the ones that really interest me, where you're taking artistic license and kind of developing the story of Christmas a little.
That's really interesting. Have you got an example of that we could have a listen to or have a look up?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the ones that we're singing is the Cherry Tree Carol, which is a traditional English carol. It's quite old. It seems to date back at least to sort of late medieval times. And it's the Cherry Tree Carol because it's based around a story of Mary and Joseph coming to a cherry tree and Mary saying, "Please pick me some cherries because I am with child." And Joseph says, "Hang on a second, how come you're with child? Let the father pick the cherries." And then the baby from inside the virgin's womb calls out and says, "Cherry tree, bend down so my mother can have some cherries." And then Joseph sort of goes and repents of what he said and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. It's clearly from God that this has happened." And so it's a really interesting parallel story. There's obviously nothing in the Bible about this, but cherries are a fruit of England. You know, Kent is famous for its cherries as an example. And it's a way that local people would make Christmas true for them. And that's what I find really interesting. So these kind of parallel stories, rather than just reciting what is in the Gospels, or lullabies, those are another example. They're quite often based on what will happen to Christ later in his life, the Mother Mary singing to Christ, but it will not be anything that's recorded. We don't have a scripture that says that Mary sang to Christ, but don't most mothers sing to their children? I hope. So I think it's a very real way of associating people and cultures and traditions with the Christmas story.
So how do you find them?
A bit of a mix, to be fair. So I'm a bit of a magpie. When I hear a Christmas carol I like, I'll be like, right, we're singing that next year. But people do recommend them to us and send them to us. So the carol from Peru, which we're singing this year, we're doing that because someone came to our concert last year and thought, oh, that would be a good one for them to do. The Orthodox tradition is to sing unaccompanied in services. So we don't have any musical accompaniment of organ or anything else. We sometimes have a drum or maybe a bell or something like that, which is more about the tradition of singing carols when you're going round houses or gathering in a village or something. Because we're singing from our different traditions, some will be harmonised carols, which will be very familiar to most of our British listeners, but we will also sing monophonic carols, so where you just have a melody and then what we call an eson, which is kind of like a drone, a simple bass line underneath. So we sing some of those, and those are considered to be what we call Byzantine, and it's having this tradition of having very simple carols, so it's just a beautiful melody and focusing in on the words. So we are very conscious that we're trying to get the words across to everyone. I know all choirs want to do that too, but we are very conscious that we're trying to get across a message of the incarnation of the Son of God. And so we are trying very hard to get across those words, whatever style that we sing in. So there might be slightly different harmonies, there might be slightly different styles of singing, but a lot of it will be very familiar to people. And we always have a couple of audience carols as well. So this year we'll have In the Bleak Midwinter and The First Noel as our audience carols.
And do you have any favourites you would recommend that we can search out?
One of my favourites that we have discovered for this year is one of the medieval English carols, and it's called the Salutation Carol. And it's in, if people have got it at home, it's in the Oxford Book of Carols in a version harmonised by Vaughan Williams. But it's also sung as a kind of medieval melody by various different groups that you can find online. So the 16 have sung it, and you just sing it with the melody and percussion, essentially, or maybe with a drone. It's one of those kind of carols which are the first carols which we really know about in the English language. And it would have been sung outside the church, probably, and could have been done in a circle with dancing. That's where carols come from. So I find it really fascinating. So it's in 6/8 in terms of rhythm, and it's got this kind of skipping rhythm. So that's really worth looking out. In terms of other carols, there are lots of the foreign language carols that we sing, which I really love. There's a German carol, which I think is actually from the 19th century, but it's what they call macaronic. So it's in German, but it also includes the phrase Kyrie eleison, so in Greek. And so it's called Maria durch ein Dornwald ging. Mary, walked through a thorny wood. And again, it's one of these kind of parallel stories to the Christmas story. The trouble is there are so many carols which I love. I love all of them. So it's hard to pick favourites for me, but those are probably two I would recommend people seek out.
My final question would be, if people miss your Christmas carol concert, where's the best place to track down the Mosaic Choir?
We have a YouTube channel that's called the Mosaic Choir on YouTube. We have rehearsals in London every week. And so if people are Orthodox and want to join us, it's absolutely great. And they can find our details on our charity parent website. So it's called forerunner.org.uk.
Yeah.
Margaret's helped us turn our gaze away from England in her comments about the international character of Orthodox Christianity. Yet we find carols are still thriving, even when she's taken us far away from the villages of Yorkshire and Derbyshire. We now take another sideways step. I pick up the conversation with a representative of a Finnish Lutheran church, albeit one that's located on the banks of London's River Thames. Well, I'm here with Mervi. Mervi is a fellow choir member, and also you work at the Finnish Church in London.
I do. I'm the service manager at the Finnish Church in London. Yes.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the Finnish Church.
Well, we've had a church in London since 1958. It's part of the Siemens mission, and the original church here in England was in 1885. So we've been here for quite some time. So we've got plenty of history of bringing Finns over and helping Finns abroad and being part of the community. And it's a very vibrant community. There's about 10,000 Finns in London and estimated about 25,000 around the UK and Ireland. So we try to reach all of them in one way or another.
That's excellent. So, I mean, the Finnish Church, I know it's near to the docks in South London. Presumably it's the docks that mean that you are here in the first place.
It is. Obviously, as we were, or we still are, a Siemens mission. So originally this was all set up to help the sailors abroad. In those days, they stayed on the ships for about 6 months. And every now and then they needed a port away from home, a place to call home away from home. And the Finnish Church was one of those places. They could come and have a shower, they could come and have a meal, they could call home, they could send postcards. They could even have a Finnish drink, just have a little bit of reminder from home, have their laundry washed and things like that. It's obviously changed a bit since the modern ships are very different and they have all the facilities now to stay in touch with relatives. But in the early days, there was none of that. So the churches everywhere the sailors went were the important point of contact to back home.
So, I mean, how about caroling in the first instance as part of a Finnish tradition? Do you do caroling in Finland?
Yes, we do. We do. Carols are a very important part of kind of ascending to the Finnish Christmas. It starts on the first Advent, mainly. Every year there is a Finnish artist that gets chosen to sing Hosianna, which is the Advent song in Finland. And it becomes a massive hit usually. It is absolutely played everywhere and everybody knows it. And even as a child, you know the lyrics to it. And even here at the church, we had our Christmas fair, but we stopped it to do a pop-up Hosianna every first Advent. So that kind of starts it all. And Finnish Christmas songs are incredibly important to Finns. We have a few songs from very early on that get sung at carol services before Christmas, which we have several. And on the Christmas Eve is the biggest one always, when we gather together to sing the carols. And then tissues are needed because half the congregation will cry when they sing the Finnish carols.
I mean, a really basic question. Can I come along, or can any of us come along to your service and listen to some of the Finnish carols?
Everybody is always welcome. Absolutely. We invite everyone and anyone. We have no restrictions. It's not just for the Finnish people, it's for everyone. And it certainly is something different. Finnish Christmas, in its sense, is a little bit more heartfelt and even a little bit devout in comparison to the jolly Christmas songs and the happy Christmas carols of other countries. Our songs tend to be a little bit more somber and a little bit about longing and forlorn and missing home and remembering the old times and the families and things like that. So that's why I mentioned the tissues earlier, that you need tissues, because you will see people are sobbing when they're singing. And yes, it's a very different atmosphere in its sense. We do sing happy ones as well. And it has been known that Finnish heavy metal bands love Christmas carols, and they have made many versions of their own, and they tend to be on the charts as well before Christmas. Everybody always expects which band or which collaboration will make their own heavy metal version of each Christmas song.
Have you got a favourite heavy metal song?
I do. I do. It's a Christmas carol called Tulkoon joulu. It means Christmas is welcome, that we welcome the Christmas. And it's sung by a collaboration called Raskasta joulua, which means heavy Christmas. And I will send you a link later, because you can get the idea of it, that it's very different to normal carols.
And what about Christmas? You know, what have you got a favourite Christmas carol that you like to sing of all of your Finnish repertoire?
Well, I'm one of those people who needs tissues when I sing. So I don't tend to sing because I hide somewhere and cry. But my absolute favorite is probably Sylvia's Christmas song. And it is one of those very kind of somber Christmas songs. And it has a part in it that is especially good for people living abroad, the Finns who live maybe here in Britain. And when that bit comes, all the Finns are in their tissues. So, so if you're a foreigner in one of our carol services, you might be wondering what on earth is going on in here. Like, why did everybody suddenly start sobbing? But it mentions longing home, and the person who wrote the song at the time, he lived near Elba, so he was far away from Finland, and he's kind of singing about his own longing for Finland and how Finland in the end of the day is absolutely the best country and the best place to be, and it's home. So obviously then, yes, the waterworks come out.
So if I see you in your Lewisham home, in the gardens there on the table sobbing in December time, it may well be that you've just listened to a Finnish carol.
Yes, exactly. There is nothing wrong with me. I am just very happy listening to my Finnish carol and crying.
Thank you very much for that contribution. And I will see you this evening at our choir.
Yes, exactly. Looking forward to it. Must do some rehearsing before we meet up.
We need to learn the lines. Apparently we're off copy this evening, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
I'm terrified.
So am I.
Thank you for listening to Arts First. You can subscribe for free and listen to all of our episodes at our Substack website. You'll find that at artsfirst.uk. There you'll find relevant links, images, programme notes and other resources, and of course our donations page. You don't have to sign up for access, but if you do, you'll be kept informed of new episodes and articles as they come out. You can also listen to episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and on our YouTube channel. If you like what we do, enjoy our podcasts, agree with some of our concerns on freedom of expression in the arts, for example, then we'd really appreciate any support, ideas and feedback. Tell your friends, share our episodes, sing our praises on social media. But for now, many thanks and we'll see you next time.